Good evening and namaste to all of you. As usual, it's a pleasure to share certain thoughts, ideas, certain experiences as regards whatever topic I share with you. Today, now, I shall talk about Indian culture and the main characteristics of Indian culture. But before we take up Indian culture as such for consideration, it is necessary to be clear on what culture per se means. Like several other words which are very commonly used, which we are very familiar with, widely used, culture is also such a word which, when it comes to defining, we are all at sea. We use it often in various contexts, but if somebody asks what culture actually is, then it is a real problem. And in modern times, number of times the word culture is used in contexts which actually don't stand for culture. For example, we have cultural exchanges, rock and roll culture, jazz culture. So it's necessary for us to understand what the word culture is. Various philosophers, sociologists, anthropologists, psychologists have attempted at giving a definition for culture. One of the best definitions, easily understandable definition, is given by a saint in our country. And the definition goes as follows. When a group of people stay together in one geographical area for a decently long period of time, sharing certain common values, then the common characteristics, or to put it poetically, the fragrance that emanates from that group is called the culture of that group. If we look at this definition, then 3-4 things stand out in our understanding of what culture is. In the first place, culture belongs to a group of people. When an individual behaves in a particular way, we say swabhava, or it is her nature to behave that way. But when a group of people behave in the same manner, we say it is their culture. So culture always is applicable to a group of people. This group of people should stay together in one geographical area. This is very essential. An Indian staying in Bangalore and an Indian staying in New York, though they are Indians, they will not have the same culture. Staying together matters a lot for the development of a culture. Third, they should stay together for a decently long period of time. This is very essential. Culture is not born overnight, neither does it die overnight. It takes a long time for culture to be built. Even if you look at family culture, a family culture which now is represented by the family members, this culture has been built by 2, 3, 4, 5 generations earlier to that, and the same values are carried forth, and then we can talk about family culture. Lastly, just being together in one geographical area for a long period of time does not necessarily give rise to a culture. These people should share certain common values. A case in point, I remember, is the present day Singapore. In Singapore, there are 3 streams of people. The population consists of these 3 streams, Singaporean population. One is the Chinese, one is the Indian, one is the Malays. Three streams of people. And there is no intermingling of certain common values in them. That is why we never hear of Singaporean culture. Because though the people are staying together for a long period of time, they are not sharing common values. For a culture to rise up, you require certain common values to be shared by people. Having said that, a good understanding of the word culture comes from its Sanskrit equivalent. Culture in Sanskrit language is represented by the word Samskriti. 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 Samskriti is made up of two words, Sama and Krita. Krita means that which is done, Sama means that which is done well. So Samskriti stands for a deed done well, something which is refined. We get a clear understanding of culture. Culture stands for refinement, internal refinement, refinement of your thinking, of your feelings, of your priorities, of your values towards others. It has to do with internal refinement. And in the context of culture, we can still understand this word Samskriti better if we understand the distinction or the meanings of the two words Prakriti and Vikriti. Prakriti means something which is natural, inherent. Vikriti means something which is perverted. Having understood these meanings of the two words, we can realize any animal is always Prakritik. It is natural. It is always true to its nature. A monkey is never ashamed of being a monkey. It does everything that the monkey does. Very natural. And all the urges of the monkeys or the animals are fulfilled as and when they arise. Very natural. But the problem arises with human beings. And that too, paradoxically, because we are gifted with the faculty of intellect or reason, which goes towards the Prakriti becoming Vikriti. A natural thing starts becoming perverted. You can see this happening all over. I'm in no way passing judgments on modern trends, but when new clothes are torn and worn as style or fashion, or all over the body, certain designs are made, can we not look at something which is very natural, something which is very simple, being made complicated, being perverted? Now we can understand the word Samskriti very nicely. In order to ensure that Prakriti does not become Vikriti, we require Samskriti. Culture is that, cultural values, the nobility in you is that which protects your naturalness, your simplicity, and ensure that it does not become perverted. Samskriti is that which prevents Prakriti from becoming Vikriti. Another way in which we can still appreciate the meaning of the word culture is, I've already said, culture stands for refinement, internal refinement. A word which is synonymously used along with culture, though the meanings are different, is the word civilization. We can differentiate between the two. Civilization stands for external progress. Culture stands for internal progress, internal refinement. To put it in a catchphrase, culture is what a man is. Civilization is what a man has. And most of the time, what a man is not unduly affected by what a man has if the culture of the man is very strong, if Samskriti is very strong, if our cultural values are very strong, then they are not unduly influenced, they are not uprooted by anything which is happening in the external world, because these values are time tested. So culture is also understood in contradistinction to the word civilization, though both the words are, utilized synonymously in most contexts. To some extent, having arrived at clarity as regards what culture is, it's now time for us to go into Indian culture per se. And when I start talking about Indian culture, I would like to mention points which distinguish or which bring out clearly what Indian culture is. The first point, Indian culture is called as Manava Samskruti. Manava means human. So Indian culture or values espoused in Indian culture are universally applicable for all human beings. Indian culture is human culture applicable for all mankind. It is Anadi, that means the cultural values, Indian cultural values have no beginning. History has not yet been able to trace from what time these values are prevalent. On one side it is Anadi, on the other side it is referred to as Sanatana. It is eternal. Why eternal? Because these values are arrived at after doing thorough study of the human being. This is the reason why, despite India undergoing barbarous invasions, despite there being no state support, the values of Indian culture have not only survived but flourished from time immemorial even till today. I will talk about this in a later context in a little bit more detail. So Sanatana means the Indian culture is eternal. Indian culture is also called as Vedic culture because the first expression to the cultural values is found in the Vedas, the earliest available scriptures for mankind today. The Vedas give expression to the cultural values of Indian culture, so we refer to Indian culture as Vedic culture. Indian culture is also called as Hindu culture. And at this point, I want to be very clear that when we talk about Indian culture as Hindu culture, we are not referring to the religious connotation wrongly ascribed to the term Hindu. We are giving the geographical connotation which is rightfully belonging to the term Hindu. The term Hindu comes from the river Sindhu or Sindhus or Indus. People living on the banks of the river Indus or Sindhus were called Hindus. So the culture which prevailed among them was called Hindu culture. So Indian culture is called as Hindu culture. The next point which I want to make is Indian culture has survived from time immemorial. Why? Because of certain specific traits. The first trait, the longevity of Indian culture, is mainly due to the flexibility inherently built in the cultural values. The cultural values are growing, changing, developing according to times. The spirit of the values remains constant, but at the periphery, changes are happening depending upon the times, depending upon the needs, necessities of people. So in spirit, in essence, Indian culture is the same as was there in ancient times. I'll give an example. If there are certain rites, rituals mentioned in Mimamsa, even today the rites and rituals are done. But today probably the rites and rituals can be performed online without the priest coming at home because we are taking benefit of technological advancement. The rites and rituals are done, but they are changed suiting to the needs of the moment there. The next point for Indian culture surviving and flourishing is the Catholicity of Indian culture. When we say Indian culture is Catholic, we mean Indian culture is tolerant. Every member in this culture is free to worship whichever deity he or she wants to worship, to follow his own or her own belief system. Nobody encroaches or steps on your foot. Even in the same household, the members have different Ishtadevatas, the desired gods there. Nobody comes in between. This Catholicity is the defining mark of Indian culture. Also, we have another principle which goes a long way in explaining the uniqueness of Indian culture, and that principle is called Anekantavada. Vada means ism. The doctrine of Anekanta. Aneka means many, Anta means side. What this doctrine says is that reality and every expression of reality has several sides to it, several dimensions. And every seeker, every saint, every thinker considers or looks at this reality from one side, from one dimension, from his or her point of view. In which case, no thinker, no saint, no scholar can say that his or her own point of view is the only point of view as regards that reality. This is not possible at all, because everybody views reality from their point of view, and reality has anekanta, many sides to it. This is the reason why there has never been a revolution from time immemorial. All the time there is only evolution, no question of revolution. This is the reason why fanaticism is not possible in the psyche of Indian culture. Particularly in modern times, in the time that we are going through, this is very much necessary to appreciate that the Indian culture or the Hindu culture prohibits or precludes fanatism at the root because of such principles like Anekantavada. Anekantavada ensures that there is always discussion possible, dialogue possible, no dictatorship possible. That is why discussion and dialogue never end up in argument, never end up in egoistic problems of who is right, because in the entire history of Indian culture, always the focus is on what is right, not who is right. Anekantavada leads to the next doctrine called Syadvada. Syadvada is a doctrine which says every person should be restrained in passing final judgments on any matter, because no final judgments can be passed by any person. Anekantavada says reality has many dimensions to it. Every person is right in his own way at looking at the reality from his point of view or her point of view. So you cannot say that your God is the only God, or your way of life is the only way of life, or your values are the best values. No, this is not possible. You should stop short of giving final judgments on any matter. Syadvada restrains the passing of judgments or final opinions on any matter. Because of these reasons, despite 2005 years back, Alexander the Great coming to this country, and in the beginning of the AD, the Christian missionaries coming to this country, and in the Middle Ages, the Mughal invaders coming to this country, despite all these invasions and influences, Indian culture has survived in spirit, in essence, in the same manner. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Puri to Dwarka, the spirit is the same. Despite all philosophical, religious, ideological differences, geographical differences, the cultural values have a continuous thread running throughout in the entire geographical area called India. This is the heritage of Indian culture. From here, I would like to go towards certain principles or certain, doctrines which were followed in Indian culture or which have the backing of Indian culture. I will take it in the next part of my lecture. Thank you very much.